Yo, dakanyal slokolaksi, QATUWAS, QATUWAS English, Jessica Brown. I said, hello, people of all tribes. My ancestral name is QATUWAS. It means people gathering together. My English name is Jessica Brown. And I work for Ocean Networks Canada as the Indigenous Community Liaison, connecting nations, communities, people with ocean science and ocean research. So in the beginning, it was a struggle to include Indigenous perspectives into a national Canadian science organization. But now I feel that people want to embrace the perspectives of Indigenous people, and I think that's not just a reflection of Ocean Networks Canada, but a reflection of our society, how people want to understand the natural world in different ways. So with that, we're pushing for a societal shift of understanding Indigenous culture and Indigenous people. And so when we're trying to bring in Indigenous knowledge into ocean science, sometimes it's as simple as respect for Indigenous people and ways of thinking. And so one of the major teachings of Indigenous people, even though every culture is very different and diverse, but for each nation, but is a common teaching is we're all connected. And so that's understanding that we are connected to our ocean, to our natural world, to our environment, and everything that we do in our daily lives will influence our home, this earth, our water, and that our water is our life form. It's our life source. Our water is our life source. So one thing that I've learned at Ocean Networks Canada is that over half of our world's oxygen actually comes from the ocean. And so it's like all those little creatures, the phytoplankton, and they literally bring us air. They bring us oxygen. They bring us the ability to live. And so when you hear Indigenous people say water is life, it literally is life. It's bringing us the ability to breathe. We think of trees as holding all of the world's oxygen, but it's both land and water working together to create our home. One thing that sometimes can be really hard is how people only see oral histories as stories or folk tale, and how it's not, I guess, given the same standard as the written language or science. But that is what Indigenous people are fighting for today, is saying that we have our own sciences. When I talk about observation, it was self-testing, because if you didn't do it right, you would literally die. So if you're not eating the right plants, if you're not smoking your fish the right way and it's going sour, it's self-testing, because we had our own ways of making a hypothesis and seeing if it worked. If you're not actually in a good relationship with the water and with the land, with our oceans, with our Mother Earth, then you risk death.
Where do you come from precisely?
Where do I come from? I come from the trees. I come from Helsik territory up in the central coast of BC. So it's in the heart of the Great Bear Rainforest is where I grew up with my father's people. And on my mother's side, Nuchanof. So I don't consider myself Canadian. I consider myself Helsik and Nuchanof. And so a lot of nations here in Canada are working towards sovereignty. We're working towards being self-determining people the way that we used to. And we're hurt people, we're suffering, and we're trying to work past that and break ongoing cycles. We're trying to break the cycle of hurt and continuous oppression onto our people. And so it's intergenerational, breaking intergenerational cycles of pain. And so you see a generation of people uprising. Indigenous people are on the rise, Coastal First Nations people are on the rise, but it's a struggle. I would say that we're continuously pushed into spaces to where they just want us to conform. And for example, when I came here to this institution, the University of Victoria, my grandmother was really proud of me. And she said to me that, be careful, because education can be the last step into assimilation. And she wasn't speaking of education from my elders, my ancestors, or land, but education from institutional ways of thinking. And therefore, just because you have brown skin or just because you are First Nations, it doesn't mean you necessarily have that way of knowing or that rooted sense of community or rooted into our Mother Earth. We are what we read, we are what we eat, we are what we watch and what we think. So if we're constantly around a colonized society, it's hard to be a decolonized people. But if you put yourself in spaces of positivity and resistance and indigenous ways of knowing and connecting, for example, even just being by the ocean, listening to the sound of the waves, observing the movement of the birds, having tea with your grandmother, eating our traditional foods, trying to walk in the footprints of our ancestors who lived in such a sustainable way.